Being a new mom is so special and so beautiful, but it can also be deeply overwhelming. In this video, I'm breaking down the 3 biggest things that quietly affect our well-being in those tender postpartum months. This is based on my one-on-one coaching practice and also on my own experience as a mom. So if you've been feeling lost, disconnected, or just not like yourself, you're not alone. Let's talk about those 3 biggest things impacting your well-being and how to start finding your way back. My name is Manon and I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner and life coach for women and especially mamas. And I help you reconnect to your true authentic self to feel more radiant and nurtured in your life. So if you resonate with this, please subscribe and hang out with us. The first thing that I see in my practice every day and in my own experience as a mom that affect us the most in our well-being is the lack of knowledge of what we actually need and how to attend those needs. So we go to the internet and we try to find how to nourish ourselves properly, how to take care of our mind properly. You've probably looked at some of those videos on this channel, and we try to implement those practices, those pieces of advice in our own life, and it doesn't always fit. Doesn't always work simply because you have a very specific mind-body type. You have very specific needs during this postpartum time, and the way that you are going to take care of yourself is different than the way I am going to take care of myself or other moms are going to take care of themselves. And also most women in general, but moms specifically, don't realize that they have needs that are different than someone who didn't give birth. So usually moms don't eat enough, they don't rest enough, but they also don't realize that they have a very specific mind-body type, and once they align their life according to this mind-body type, everything feels easier and more tuned and more fitting to your own needs. And I also see not drinking enough water, not exercising enough, and exercising too much. Because when we give birth, we are definitely exhausted, our body changed, or our body composition changed, so we cannot work out the same way as we used to. And it can be very deceiving for moms to go back to moving their body in a way that is actually nourishing and supporting them. And I've been there in the sense that it was so hard for me to create the time for it. There's so much we have to do. There's so much that is required from us, especially if we have multiple kids. But movement is something that is crucial for recovery, and that is crucial for your self-confidence and crucial for being in your body, which is super important, especially as a woman. And what I see also is mothers who go back to working out too fast or in the wrong way. So they would go back to a lot of cardio, like running, practices that are not aligned with what their body is capable of at this time of their life. So remember that movement and exercise are very important, but done the wrong way, not enough or too much, is going to actually prevent you from recovering from giving birth. And you might see impacts on your physical health, so maybe weakness, tiredness, dryness in your body. Maybe your joints are going to be painful or cracky. But it can also affect your sleep and your sense of self, your identity. So all of those are very important to mention. If you want me to cover movement and exercising after giving birth in the Ayurvedic way, in a way that is actually serving your body and mind, let me know and I will create a dedicated video on that subject. The second biggest thing that affects mom's well-being, and especially during postpartum, is lack of community. I've been there. I live in the US. My family is in France. My husband's family is all over the US, so we lack family support. And we have to recreate community however we can, but it's hard when you don't have family around. That's a reality for most of us today because we don't live close to our families. But I find that this is so impactful because it impacts everything else. If you don't have community, you cannot have the time to rest, you cannot have the time to exercise, you cannot have the time to feed yourself properly, you don't have the energy to do all of those. You can have relationship issues, especially in your marriage, because there's so much pressure on the two of you that it becomes like this source of stress on an everyday basis. So the lack of community impacts you much more than you think and impacts all the areas of your life. especially when we know that during this postpartum month we need a lot of bonding hormone, which is oxytocin, this hormone of I belong. And if we don't experience this in our relationships, it's going to be harder to nourish this in ourselves and with our baby. And we need a lot of that feeling of bonding and belonging to also create this special bond with our baby. So I know it's one that is easier said than done. I even struggle myself to recreate a conscious and supportive community, and it's not easy, but there's so many ways to do it. You can start online if it's the only thing you have available to at least get emotional support, spiritual support, but then you also can turn to your neighbors, turn to friends, and see what you can arrange with them to get really good support. Even if you cannot afford a doula or a nanny or a babysitter, there are ways to do things without money, and I'll invite you to get creative with that because you need it, your marriage needs it, and your baby needs it. The third biggest thing that I see impact moms, and especially new moms' life, it's a very uncommon one and it's not spoken about enough, in my opinion, is the lack of rituals. What it means is it doesn't have to be religious, but the lack of transition, of consciously transitioning from maiden to mother, from mother of one to mother of two, all those transitions are so crucial and impactful on our lives and on our psyche that if they're not supported by a moment of gathering, of consciously taking notes of what has been and what is to come, consciously take a next step into this next stage of your life, it usually impacts us a lot on our mental, especially on our mental health. And in my vision of a ritual is simply creating a space and time for an intention where you're going to give all of your attention to that intention. It's literally that simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. I offer rituals on this channel with CACAO, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simply you having an intention. Maybe it is to consciously move into motherhood or consciously move into having a second baby and how it is going to impact your life. Dedicated some time and a space for it and fully giving your attention to that intention. And what I see all the time is that when moms don't have that aspect of ritual in their life, they usually have struggles with identity crisis because your identity is going to shift. Becoming a mom, most likely. Not just becoming a mom, there's so many other things in life that create those identity shifts, like moving, like going to another country, like changing what you like, what you do, because this happens all the time. We're growing and changing and evolving. Another thing is that it disconnects us from nature's rhythm. What I love to celebrate usually and have a ritual around is the equinoxes and the solstices, because those markers are like a clock, internal clock for my system. They are the clock of the planet. They are the clock of the earth. It's how the sun relates to the earth, and it impacts our health directly in the amount of light we receive, in the temperature we live in the type of climate in general. It's not just some esoteric stuff, it's actually proved by science now that seasonal living is actually a very beautiful way to take care of yourself. I will try to find this study and put it in the description of this video, but they found out that the microbiome of a natural place, like forest or a beach or a mountain, is different depending on the place you are in. So the biome of a forest is going to be different than the one of a beach, for example. But it also changes with the seasons. So the biome of a forest during winter is not going to be the same during summer. What does it mean? It means that when you are outside, acknowledging the seasons, you're also going to inoculate yourself and your own microbiome. So what's outside is inside. The microbiome that is around you outside is going to inoculate, which means give you the good microbiome for the season, which is so important because your microbiome is going to define then what you can digest, how you digest it, your immunity, your strength, your mental well-being, because in Ayurveda we consider that the microbiome that we really call Agni, which is a fire, helps you digest anything you go through. It can be food, it can be emotions, events, thoughts. And also I find that the lack of ritual in our life can make us feel very isolated, especially if we don't have a community around us. Isolated on a spiritual level. And as new moms, we need so much support to get into this new role, get into this new identity that we have to embody, that not having this spiritual support tends to put us in a very vulnerable position of feeling totally alone trying to figure things out. So if that's a subject that you are interested in, I created a video on how spirituality can support us and non-religious spirituality. It doesn't have to be part of a religion. So let me know in the comments if there's anything in those 3 points that you want to work on, and what are your tips and what you found useful to support you on your journey. I'm sure every mama hanging out here is going to benefit from your perspective and your experience, so please share it with us. And if you want to implement a ritual practice yourself and be guided all along, you can follow along with me with this ritual where I encourage you to shed your old skin to make room for the new. So I'll see you there or in another video, and until next time, stay radiant and nurtured. Bye bye.